Hoffman, himself a veteran, and has served in Iraq. And I'm so grateful for his service, and thank you, Congressman, for being here today. And then Congresswoman Shelley Pingree from the great state of Maine, who has family in South Carolina. So we're very grateful to have you here. And of course, we couldn't meet if Congresswoman Badallo wasn't back, and to be here with Congresswoman Davis. But I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. And today, the Subcommittee on Military Personnel will conduct its second hearing on non-appropriated fund activities and will turn its attention to commissaries and exchanges, the Department of Defense's military resale operations. And even as we begin, I want to indicate that I was really hopeful that the votes that we were going to have today would have been prior to the beginning of this hearing, but they could be any moment. And then if we appear startled and run out the door, it's because we're trying to live within the time frame of the vote. But the good news is it won't be that extended, and so then we shall return. And you can even figure out when we're coming back now, which is a novelty. I believe that the commissaries and exchanges are an essential part of the health of the military community and combat capability as morale, welfare, and recreation programs that the subcommittee examined during yesterday's hearing. Similarly, we also expect the exchange and commissary systems to pursue efficiency during this era of increased budget austerity, because we want these operations to provide the best service and value to the service members and their families. However, it must be recognized that the exchanges are not big consumers of appropriated dollars, and calls for the exchanges to save appropriated dollars should be answered with factual justifications. There are analysts who are calling for more reductions in appropriated funding from the commissary system, or have questioned the need for the military to operate the commissaries at all. I believe that the Defense Commissary Agency is a model of efficiency in our government, with a budget that is less than what was 10 years ago when inflation is considered. Service members' surveys consistently rate it as one of the most highly valued benefits offered by the military that delivers over 30% in grocery savings to families, service members, and veterans. I believe if the Defense Commissary Agency were eliminated, that we would have to invent another benefit of equal impact on retention, and chances are it would not be as effective or as efficient. In addition to learning more about the value of the exchanges and commissaries and the need to provide they are factually justified, the resale community has other challenges that we hope to learn more about today. We intend to explore continuing concerns about, first, the adequacy of funding for recapitalization, second, renewed interest in pursuing exchange consolidation, and third, the negative impact on vendors of the 3% tax withholding imposed by the Tax Increase Prevention and Reconciliation Act of 2005. Representative Davis, do you have any opening remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm delighted to be with you again today, and I want to welcome our witnesses here as well. We know that Mr. Gordon and Mr. Larson joined us yesterday, and thank you for being here once again. We appreciate your willingness to do that, to come back a second day. And General Casella and Admiral Robillard and Mr. Jew, Mr. Nixon, and Mr. Gordon, welcome to you as well. Yesterday, as the chairman noticed, we focused on morale, welfare, and recreation programs. And today we will look at the military resale community. In thinking about our hearing yesterday, we talked about military resale in the context of the support programs that are provided to our men and women and their families in uniform. And we talked about how important, how critical those were for a variety of reasons. And I think that that was outlined really quite well in that hearing. So we share a concern that the future of commissaries and exchanges may be being discussed in some significant way and some changes, and we want to be part of that conversation, of course, but we also have to state very strongly how important the non-appropriated funding that goes to our support services is. Over the past several years, the commissary and exchanges have faced a number of significant challenges, and you've all been aware of them, including the transformation of services, the personnel drawdowns, base closures and realignments, and force structure changes and movements. And sometimes we overlook those decisions about those functions really can impact our men and women in a large variety of ways, and certainly impact our commissaries and our exchanges as well. So we want to be very mindful of that as we move forward. Our military personnel and their families, as well as our MWR programs, have relied on the accomplishments of the commissary and exchanges. So we appreciate your leadership and your partnership with our private sector partners to ensure that we provide the best programs and the best products for our men and women in uniform. Thank you for supporting our service members. I know when I've had a chance over the last few years to address your organization, I know how dedicated people are to being certain that our men and women are well cared for, and I appreciate that very much. So with you, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to the hearing and look forward to the remarks of our witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we are grateful to have an excellent panel of witnesses today. Mr. Robert L. Gordon, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Military, Community and Family Policy, Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel Readiness. Major General Bruce A. Casella, USAR, Commander of the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. In general, the subcommittee is sadly aware of the recent passing of your wife, Kathy. And on behalf of the subcommittee members and staff, please accept our heartfelt condolences on your loss. We're grateful to have Rear Admiral Select Glenn C. Robillard, U.S. Navy, Commander, Navy Exchange Service Command, and I appreciate last week the opportunity of touring the command and seeing the first-class professionals who worked there. Mr. Joseph Jew, the Director and Chief Executive Officer, the Defense Commissary Agency. Mr. Timothy R. Larson, Director, Personnel and Family Readiness Division, Manpower and Reserve Affairs Department, Headquarters, United States Marine Corps. Mr. Patrick B. Nixon, President of the American Logistics Association, and also Mr. Thomas T. Gordy, who is the President of the Armed Forces Marketing Council. And we welcome Tom back to Capitol Hill. He had a distinguished record of service here on Capitol Hill. And then I personally was very grateful for his Navy Reserve service in Iraq, and he was my host when I was there and made sure that we got to meet as many troops as possible and thank them for their service, and we thank you for your service in Iraq. As was the case yesterday, many of our witnesses are appearing before the subcommittee for the first time. General Casella, Admiral Robillard, Mr. Jew, Mr. Gordy, welcome. Mr. Nixon, you've testified before the subcommittee many times in the past, but not in your current role as at the American Logistics Association. And again, you were previously Director of the Defense Commissary Agency, and as we hear good things about that, we give you a lot of credit. I want to welcome to the hearing at some time the gentleman from California, Congressman Wally Herger, to the hearing. Mr. Herger is asked to participate in the hearing, and I would ask unanimous consent that he be permitted to do so following the members of the subcommittee. Without objection, so ordered. And so we will begin right away with Mr. Robert L. Gordon.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson and members of the subcommittee. I'm delighted to testify before you again today. As with MWR, I'm grateful for this committee's support for the Department's resale activities. Our industry partners here today also play a key role in preserving the valuable exchange and commissary benefit. As the exchange and DECA commanders will tell you, the state of military resale is healthy. Through cooperative and independent efforts, we are improving the availability of services and lowering out-of-pocket expenses for service members and taxpayers. Customer satisfaction and customer savings are also healthy. In addition to internal customer satisfaction surveys, external surveys are conducted by the American Consumer Customer Satisfaction Index, or ACSI. DECA's 2010 score of 80 exceeded the ACSI commercial supermarket industry average of 75. Commissary savings on patrons' overall purchases is 31.5%. Exchange savings averaged 26 to 28%, with tax savings. The 2010 Exchange ACSI scores finished at or slightly below the department and discount store industry average of 76, with Marine Corps Exchange at 75, Navy Exchange Service Command at 75, and Army and Air Force Exchange Service at 73. Each of the exchange services also conduct internal surveys to evaluate and improve customer satisfaction. The Department of Defense leadership is fully engaged in the oversight of these important benefits. The Executive Resale Board, with many of its members also serving on the DECA and Exchange boards, is taking an active role to ensure complementary approaches where there are mutual interests. My written testimony outlines our ongoing work in greater detail. I look forward to working with this committee, and I thank you for your support and look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. General Casella.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, I want to thank you for this opportunity to testify today. I'm eager to share with you how the Army and Air Force Exchange Service is providing the exchange benefit to members of the armed services and their families. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for your commitment and our dedication to protecting and enhancing this important benefit. I would also be remiss if I did not thank the committee staff for their professionalism and counsel. It is a credit to this committee. I'm here today to report to you that AAFES, Army Air Force Exchange Service, continues to succeed in a challenging economy. As part of our strategic plan, we have focused on customer service, business and process efficiencies, and investing in capital improvements. Despite the recession, we were able to generate over $8 billion in 2009 sales and increase sales by 1% over plan for 2010. Coupled with over $260 million of dividends returned to our MWR programs for both 2009 and 2010. What I'm most proud of is the 4,500 volunteer AAFES associates who have deployed in Southwest Asia since early 2000. Today, we have an average of 400 associates deployed in Southwest Asia who provide a touch of home to our service members in harm's way. I'm also proud of the support we provide the military community through new facilities. In Germany, Kaiserslautern Military Community Center opened in late 2009 and achieved more than $1.2 million in sales on opening day. In Japan, Kadena Air Force Base main store became our largest exchange in the Pacific. At Fort Bliss, Texas, the 52-acre recently opened Freedom Crossing Lifestyle Center supports over 120,000 soldiers, families, and local retirees. With these and other efforts discussed in the testimony I have provided for the record, I believe AAFES is on the right course to maintain a viable force in the lives of our customers and the military community we serve. Again, I want to thank this committee for its support to AAFES and the entire military resale community as a whole, and most importantly, the brave men and women of our armed forces we support. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. And it is interesting to me as we serve on the committee to find out that shopping centers have been superseded by lifestyle centers. And but that's really reflecting serving our families. Admiral Robillard.
Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Davis, distinguished members of the panel, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. It is my privilege to represent Navy Exchange Service Command and our 14,000 associates worldwide. Navy is committed to military and family readiness, and the Navy Exchange programs are an important part of that commitment. Everything we do is focused on our sailors and their families. It starts with employing family members. 26% of our associates are military family members. And we listen to our family members. Through surveys and focus groups, we have learned what is important to them. We interact through social media, including Facebook and Twitter. We have also developed customer segmentation to focus on the differences of our shoppers, allowing us to target merchandise assortments at each location. Our military families see the Navy exchanges as more than just a store. It is a place where they go for that sense of military community, particularly for those families whose sailor is deployed or for those families serving overseas. We provide the services they need, whether it's affordable lodging when they transfer, telecommunications to keep in touch when deployed, ship stores when they're at sea, barbershops, gas stations, dry cleaning, and much more. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our industry partners who help us provide not only value and savings to our families, but they support the many events that let the family know how special they are. I would also like to thank the other members of the military resale community here today. We are committed to working together to improving the military family's quality of life. In closing, I would like to say how proud I am of the Navy sailors who serve our country around the world every day. I am also proud of our Navy Exchange team who is dedicated to taking care of sailors. Together with our industry and government partners and the support of this subcommittee, we are able to do more for the deserving families. On our sailors' behalf, I thank you.
Admiral, thank you. And we've been joined by Congressman Brady. Thank you for being here from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Mr. Jew.
Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, it is my distinct honor to have been chosen to serve military families and who continue to rate the commissary as one of their most valued benefit. I'd like to talk about the value of commissary benefit. Too frequently, we have limited our definition to patron savings, currently 31.5%. While savings are the heart of the benefit, there are many other factors that define its real value. There are three facets that comprise the commissary benefit: quality of life, military readiness, and cost avoidance. The quality of life is most definitely enhanced by the patron savings, which can generate $4,400 annually for a family of four, which system-wide totaled $2.69 billion last year. Additionally, there are ancillary benefits provided by our industry. They contributed $244 million last year to military scholarships, commissary-specific coupons and promotions, and installation support programs. I'm pleased that 63% of DACA's workforce is from our military family. The readiness facet allows our service members to concentrate on their mission rather than wondering about the well-being of their families. The cost avoidance facet describes what the department saves in other areas such as reduced cost of living allowance or COLA rates, better shipping rates for overseas transportation. These factors combined provide exceptional value and added to the nation's return on investment from the commissary system. In closing, I want to thank you for your steadfast support of our military members and their families and the Defense Commissary Agency. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Timothy R. Larson.
Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Davis, distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you once again for the opportunity to represent the Marine Corps and provide a report on the Marine Corps exchange and retail programs. We thank the Congress, especially this subcommittee, for your continued support. During 2009, we experienced one of the toughest retail economic climates in recent history, yet we exceeded all established performance measures. We are completing system-wide initiatives that began about 5 years ago to centralize buying, recapitalize our stores, and implement branding standards. As part of our daily operations, we constantly pursue program efficiencies through cooperative efforts and partnerships with our sister services. We will be focused on improving our supply chain and management over the next several years. Without question, the Marine Corps Exchange is linked to our mission of taking care of Marines and families. Our operational success is measured on the program's value and contribution to readiness and retention, and our ability to provide high-quality customer service, premier facilities, and valued goods and services at a savings. On behalf of Marines and families, I thank you for your oversight and continued support of these critical pieces of the military and family community support system. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Patrick B. Nixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's once again an honor to appear before this subcommittee representing the members and board of directors of the American Logistics Association. I want to take this opportunity to recognize the leadership of the chairman and the distinguished ranking member. Over the course of the last several years, in particular, your support for these vital benefits we will discuss today. We have outlined our legislative agenda and issues in the prepared statement provided to the committee. Major issues where we seek the committee's support are full funding of commissaries, exchanges, and MWR programs on quality of life and retention and readiness grounds. Relief from the 3% withholding requirements of Section 511 of the Tax Increase Prevention and Reconciliation Act of 2005 in the form of full repeal or exemption of MWR and resale programs when it affects prices to our men and women in uniform and their families. And finally, a secure and affordable and expedient method of providing access to installations and facilities for industry personnel. I look forward to our discussions, and I return the remainder of my time for Mr. Gordy.
My goodness. Thank you very much. This is startling. Mr. Thomas T. Gordy.
Well, good afternoon, Chairman Wilson. Thank you for your kind comments earlier. It was certainly a pleasure to host you over in Iraq, as well as Mr. Kaufman when you came over, and Ms. Bordalio when you came over, especially with the troops from Guam, and we had a wonderful meal, didn't we, ma'am? Thank you for inviting me to be with you today to offer comments on behalf of the Armed Forces Marketing Council regarding the military resale services and the vital role they serve in supporting the quality of life of our service members and their families. As we begin the hearing today, there are a few facts that I believe should be noted first and kept in mind throughout our discussions. DECA continues to receive clean audit opinions demonstrating responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars. All systems continue to maintain or improve their customer status index scores, showing they are more in step with customer needs. All systems continue to provide double-digit savings for military families. The exchanges continue to post strong dividends in support of military quality of life programs. All systems continue to recapitalize their stores and modernize their systems, seeking to always provide military families with a quality shopping environment and experience while driving efficiencies whenever and wherever possible. The military resale systems also provide expeditionary support to the warfighter, particularly AFES and MCX, which supports the needs of our warfighters on the front lines in Iraq and Afghanistan, while NEXCOM supports our service members in places like Guantanamo Bay and Djibouti, and all rapidly deployed to support troops mobilized to respond to natural disasters such as the devastating earthquake that struck Haiti last year. The civilian employees of the exchanges who deploy in support of these contingencies are to be commended for their commitment and dedication to serve our warfighters in these difficult environments. As our economy has struggled to regain momentum, we've seen the value of food stamp usage among commissary patrons triple since 2007. Thus, the benefit is as important as ever in supporting the financial readiness and the health and well-being of our service members and their families. The view of the Armed Forces Marketing Council is that the military resale benefit continues to work well. It's honest, it's efficient, and it's responsive. Its success derives from the unfailing commitment that the systems have made to customer service, patron savings, and to continued process improvements and efficiencies to keep costs and thus prices low. However, as we look to the future, there are policies, practices, and proposals that we believe warrant Congress's attention and action in order to prevent them from adversely impacting the resale benefit, and I look forward to answering your question regarding these and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's anticipated that we'll have 3 votes, 1:15 to 5-minute between 2:30 to 2:45. But we'll proceed, and but we will recess and proceed quickly and come back. At this time, again, I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. And for Mr. Gordon, a question I have: we all understand more than ever base security is more important than ever. And the vulnerability of our bases. The Department of Defense does not operate a uniform process for acquiring base access credentials for employees of the companies that deliver goods and services to the network of exchanges and commissions. What is your perspective of government and private sector efforts to provide vendors and brokers base access cards, and what is the status of the Department of Defense efforts to address this problem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did meet recently, months ago, about this very issue. It's very important, of course, just in terms of both efficiency and effectiveness to determine ways that we get our vendors on our posts and bases across the world. And it's an issue because, of course, it bumps up against the security requirements for our installations within the wake of, a new era where we have to pay attention to security in much more important and measured ways. But We are committed to finding an alternative and a solution. It's not just about the Department of Defense, though. This is a whole-of-government approach. Whether we're talking about our other agencies in terms of access to our facilities and our installations, yet at the same time, we're committed to finding a solution. We met recently about it. We're looking at ways where we can bring together both the commercial sector and our partners and our department and a whole-of-government approach to making sure that vendors have some sort of identification that they can get onto our facilities. So we'll continue to work it, and I would love to keep you up to date on it.
Well, that's so important. And in fact, Mr. Nixon and Mr. Gordy actually brought it up. And both of you, Mr. Nixon and Mr. Gordy, can you tell us about the secure vendor identification system that's already been developed by the private sector but hadn't been adopted, sadly, by DOD?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to compliment Secretary Gordon for his transparency on this issue. He has met with us, and as well as meeting with the Armed Forces Marketing Council and Coalition of Military Distributors to discuss this issue and have a better understanding of the impact on industry. We've been working this issue for 6 years now, and it seems like it's one step forward and 2 steps backwards. We've worked closely with the department on a federated solution that was actually initiated by the department, and while that appears to meet all the requirements of HSPD 12, which is the controlling directive, the department didn't recognize it as a solution. In fact, there's some folks within the department said a federated solution is not what they're looking for. An alternative, we have a company as a member of the association, EID Passport, that has developed a system called RapidGate that's been adopted by the Navy in the continental United States for access for vendors. In a meeting with the department, they told us that RapidGate was did not comply with the purported solution as well. So it appeared we ended up somehow stuck between the department arm wrestling with itself on what's between the policy and the practices of what the right answer is going to be. And our written testimony is a little more doom and gloom than I think actuality now. February 3rd, the White House has issued a directive that all federal agencies will comply with HSPD 12 this year. And our goal is a single solution that industry can use for all activities, and this appears to be what we're looking for. Now, there's a deadline of a date in March when policies and procedures for each agency must be submitted to OMB and be certified that they're going to comply. If not, it's OMB's intention to withhold funding from agencies that do not comply with this. So we're going to go to both of our credential providers, have them certify that they meet these criteria, send that certification to the department to make sure it's validated. And if this is in fact implemented as the White House says, then we expect the solution to take place this year.
Thank you. And Mr. Gordy?
First of all, I just want to commend Mr. Nixon. He has been really the champion on this issue for the industry, and he's been our subject matter expert. And I really don't have anything to add to what he said other than from the Armed Forces Marketing Council perspective, what we're concerned about is the interoperability of systems. And as Mr. Nixon pointed out, there, having one system would work best. But if the Army brings on one system, the Navy brings on another, and the other services yet go to different agencies or have different systems, it could mean that a vendor, one of the employees of the vendors, has to have 4 different CAC cards in order to access the different bases. That could lead potential for fraud. It also is very expensive. In order to get one of those cards, then you would have to have a background check for each of those cards. So this becomes very expensive for the vendor community, and we would hope that whatever systems are adopted, that they are interoperable so that the vendor could have one card that will work at each base regardless of which service operates that base.
Well, thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Gordon, for helping spearhead. Ms. Davis?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again for all of you being here. We addressed this a little bit, I think, yesterday, just in talking about some concerns that we might have about the exchange and commissary systems and throughout throughout our bases and our communities. And I wonder, Mr. Gordon, if you could address for us whether there are any rumors, particularly as they would address the consolidation of the exchange consolidation. That would be helpful for people to hear. We know that there were several years there between, I think, 2000 2006, where that was a major area of discussion, and I was wondering if we have a chance to examine that today.
Thanks very much. I am not aware of any, at this point, discussions in terms of considering a study, once again, to consolidate our exchanges. You know, as we all know, this has been studied many times, about 6 times in the past 42 years. What I'm really excited about is the kind of efficiencies, first of all, that our leaders have found working together really in partnership, because our services are different. They're the same but different. They're the same in terms of defending this country, but they have different slices of that sort of defense. So if you take a look at the demographics of our services, they cater to those sorts of demographics. It's interesting, I think, when you visit the headquarters of our various resale activities, how they've been very thoughtful about the demographics and then how they outreach basically to their communities to provide the best benefit, but also the best value. I just want to note what Mr. Jew said about the $244 million that our commercial partners offer in terms of corporate social responsibility, you know, from scholarships to coupons. That sort of innovation, I believe, occurs because we've got different sorts of exchanges who participate with collaborative programs, and we've done that, who think very innovatively about how to outreach to their communities. So the good news story is you continue to see both the benefit and value go up with this system that we currently have. And the kinds of innovation and creativity can continue to occur with the kind of system we have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Nixon or Mr. Gordy, would you care to comment on that at all?
I would mirror the Secretary's comments that this has been studied. If you were to look at the numerous efficiencies that have been garnered by the exchanges cooperations to date, clearly they have partnered in many initiatives, supply chain efficiencies, and I think to undertake another study would be throwing good money after bad. It's been looked at, and it just doesn't work.
Exactly. I mean, I showed Mr. Wilson last week a stack of studies that were this tall, of all the studies that have been done on exchange consolidation. And we know that about the $17 million that have gone behind this, millions and millions of dollars that have studied this, and to go, you know, to any discussion that could be put forward. And we're thankful that it's not coming from the department, but we're hearing it more from outside the department, where people think that this is a solution, but yet it's one of those items that it sounds good, it looks wonderful on a PowerPoint presentation. It briefs well, but when you start doing the studies and the analysis, you realize it does not deliver the efficiencies or the savings that they promise.
I wonder if Ms. General Casella or Emma Robillard or Mr. Larson, what immediate challenges do you see facing the exchange system as we look at that today, aside from the fact that we're not perhaps looking at the consolidation, but what challenges do you see?
Great question. I think from our perspective at AAFES, some of the challenges that we see today, probably trying to keep pace and be in a very competitive mode with our counterparts in the commercial side of the house. Today, we're really getting into social media to try to work that. We're working our .com sites. The paradigms in our community have changed over the years. We used to have 70% of our folks living on base and 30% off base, and now that's flipped, so there's only 30% living on base and 70% living off base. And then a lot of those Guard, Reserve, and retirees are in the community, not even near a local base or a garrison out there to receive those benefits. So one of our challenges is how do we tap those and let them tap into this benefit resource and take care for their families and save money. A couple things that are a challenge for us is where we've enhanced our .com sites to allow them to shop online and get the same savings with free shipping for a certain cost that you pay for certain goods. Excellent. It's an excellent approach. It allows us to tap into a whole host of commodities. Our biggest store has 250,000 unique items in it if you went to a store. Online, we have 18 million. So if you do the math, you find out that if you want to tap into all the products and resources out there, you want to touch your community on the .com side. And we're also getting into other innovations too with smartphones. A lot of folks now are doing consumer shopping and comparison shopping with their smartphones, and we're developing that technology along with the other folks on the panel here to help leverage that to provide our families and our warfighters out there with those opportunities. So that is a challenge for us. I think another challenge for us is the Army is in huge transformation. The Air Force in our side of the house is fairly stable, but the Army is in a huge transformation. We have large numbers of brigade combat teams consisting of 4,000 or more folks each, and large shuffling going on with BRAC moves, transformation, et cetera. With that comes a lot of movement, change, construction, a lot of efforts that we have to be focused on. We have a great plan for that, but it's a lot of big muscle movements for us. And I think thirdly for us is probably the OND, OEF support that we do overseas. We've got a great handle on that, a great process, and we're trying to work that transformation as well in terms of downsizing an OND and taking care of the requirements in Afghanistan. So.
Thank you very much. And we've been joined by Congresswoman Hartzler of Missouri and Congressman Rooney of Florida. Our next question would be from Congressman Mike Kaufman of Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure who would answer this question, but I believe that in South Korea, where we currently have 28,500 military personnel, and that now there's a movement afoot to take that from an unaccompanied tour to an accompanied tour and to bring the dependents forward, and that we have to develop the infrastructure for that. Do you have any idea of what the cost will be relative to developing the exchange and commissary capability there to support those dependents, and where would that money come from?
Well, Congressman, I guess my challenge is I'm not sure if I have the exact figures for you for the cost data, but I will tell you that we are working in consolidation with the folks here on the panel to come up with the consolidated solutions at Camp Humphreys. Camp Humphreys actually is the center of gravity for the transformation off the DMZ, and we figure about 40% of our population will be co-located at Humphreys once that installation is complete. One of the things the Army and Air Force exchange system is doing is we've already negotiated and already got the agreement through the folks in Korea to do a new main exchange at Camp Humphreys, along with a relocation of the commissary as well, and the commissary can talk about that as well, to provide a great resource for those families that are coming over. The budgets for this, the dollars that are associated with this, are in our program. We have programmed those. They're part of our master planning process. We've gone through several iterations of design to make sure we're on track. And in terms of what we have to put up to make this appropriate, and the Korean government itself is also paying for certain funds to allow this to take place too.
Have we already do we already have the contracts in place in terms of building those facilities, or are they yet to be put out?
I think as we speak today, those contracts will have to be put out, but they're part of our master plan. We're in the design phase right now, requirements and design phase. But it is definitely on the agenda to do. We've got the milestones set. I don't see any. Our biggest hurdle was to get the final agreement. It just happened the last month to get the final agreement of where we're going to put the facilities. For us, there's a little more challenge because we also have to consider our warehousing operations and our bakery that's also in the community. But those will come with a master plan. So I think we're on track, but right now we're in the design phase.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Nixon and Mr. Gordy, what would be the effect of a cut in funding of 5 or 10% relative to commissary funding?
Devastating, in a single word. The the principal use for the appropriations for commissaries is personnel, and probably the next largest group is transportation. So any cut of that magnitude would immediately evolve into either reduction in days and hours of operation or closures of commissaries, which would simply just begin a spiral to devalue the benefit. The one thing that I think that the message that we industry members like to pass is that savings is built into the DNA of these organizations, these resale commands up here. Because of the partnership with industry, every decision they make is either about increasing savings to the patron or savings to the patron and delivering dividends back to the installation. And so they've been involved in savings for a long time now. Defense Commissary Agency consolidation was based on savings, and it's saved over $1 billion from that consolidation and taking out cost of supply chain and construction and other associated costs. So any reduction, 5%, 10%, immediately goes to personnel, immediately reduces the benefit.
I would add that if you take a look at DECA's budget, even from last year, it's already been cut by $40 million. And now we're looking at potential cuts again this year. DECA has been, for the past decade, has been trying to become as an efficient organization as it can be. And so if you look at DECA in context of what have you done for me in the last year, that's too short term of a view. You really have to look back over the last 10 years and to see what DECA has done to reduce its cost in order to make this benefit as efficient and effective as it possibly can be. Granted, are there areas for more efficiency at DECA? Potentially, yes. But when you start talking about cuts at the level of 5% or above, now you start talking about going beyond just efficiencies at the headquarters level to actually reducing store personnel. If you start reducing store personnel, you start having to reduce hours, you start having to shutter stores. And when you get to that point, the military patron loses their benefit. So our concern is that any of these cuts that go beyond just achieving efficiencies at the headquarters level that actually go towards reducing the benefit or going to cut store hours or close stores, that starts affecting the military patron. That's something that we're very concerned about.
Thank you very much. And Congresswoman Madeline Bardallo of Guam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of questions here, and first of all, I want to thank all of our witnesses, and of course, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Larson, back again. Thank you for appearing today and providing us with your testimonies. I do promise, gentlemen, to stay away from the ever-contentious issue of alcoholic beverage resale on Guam, but just a reminder, it's still on my future agenda. The first question I have is for Secretary Gordon. In last year's House-passed Defense Authorization Bill, there is a reporting requirement that I requested from the Department of Defense on its efforts to locally procure fresh meat, poultry, seafood, fish, and produce for commissary and exchange stores. Now, that report was due on May 1st, 2011. Can I get a commitment that the Department will make every effort to get us that report on time? And I think, Mr. Gordon, you'd be the one to answer that.
I will definitely look into it and expedite it.
Okay. May 1st.
May 1st. I hear you.
2011. I firmly believe in sustainability practices when it comes to our commissaries and exchanges. And here in the House, we began the Greening of the Capital initiative, which has led to fresher food products in the meals that we eat. There are many benefits, including environmental cost savings and improved health quality, which improves the health, wellness, and the readiness of our men and women in uniform. So I'd like to hear, I guess first from you, Secretary Gordon, to what extent is each of the services and the Department as a whole looking at sustainability practices for our commissaries and exchanges?
I think we look at that very much in terms of sustainability. I think it's aligned also with, once again, this notion of innovation, because as we know, in an austere, fiscally austere environment, you've got to bring in partners to ensure that sustainability of both the benefit and value. It's not just about the benefit, because the benefit, as we know, is the value in terms of recruitment and retention and readiness, but it's also the value proposition of what would bring a service member and their family to our commissaries and exchanges. Some of that sustainability comes with systems, and I think you'd be very impressed if you go to the headquarters of these facilities and see the kind of information technology that they have now. Also, the returns to scale by combining certain sorts of operations. Our military star card is an example of that. That begs sustainability as well, as we try to streamline efforts to ensure that each service complements one another in terms of finding ways of combining their efforts to ensure a long-term benefit and value. With that, let me turn it over to the
General
Exchange
Costello.
Commander.
Yes.
Well, that's an excellent question for the APs, because we are heavily engaged with sustainability and all the initiatives that go with that. Specifically, we've kind of embedded this whole approach in everything we do today. We've just been recognized, I think, earlier this year from Department of Energy for some of the great work we've been doing in water management, water and energy conservation, and fleet management, because we actually have our own fleet of vehicles as well. And that includes consumption, gasoline consumption, and how we do more efficiently operate on the highways. So we did get an award there. That's a start for us, but it's not the end. We also are involved in several LEED Silver projects in terms of what we do. And those LEED Silver projects were already introduced at Randolph Air Force Base, Fort Polk, Fort Bragg, and Fort Bliss as well. And if you went to our new Lifestyle Center in Fort Bliss, Texas, you would see that we have many enhancements that we put not only there, but in also our stores. Some include energy-saving lighting systems, where if you walk up to the counter, they'll turn on, and if you leave, they turn off and save energy. We have 30 and 40% reductions in basically water consumption for our bathrooms and some of the things that we use for water consumption. Air conditioning. We're using better air conditioning materials now, so in effect, we save energy there too, as well as for some of the installation that we're using. Flooring that we use in our facilities is huge. We now have a new flooring solution we use, which allows us to give a high-polished approach to concrete and saves maintenance costs tremendously. We also use recyclable materials for building our new facilities, which is a huge effort in terms of reusing those materials. So we're incorporating that not only in our lifestyles, but all of our image upgrades too that we're doing across our infrastructure. And that's where the bulk of our efforts are going to be.
Thank you, General. Sounds very good. And, of course, we'll have to hear from the Admiral now.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to talk a little bit about sustainability. One of the issues that to be sustainable, you have to be relevant. So one of the issues that we deal with significantly is how do we deal with the new generation of demographics, and how are we going to continue to make sure that they shop our exchanges and recognize the benefit we bring to them. So the entire effort that we do with segmentation is really about sustainability to make sure we're relevant to our future sailors. And when it comes to energy, we do many of the same things that General Costello. We partner, and we actually use best practices. I go to many of his stores, as he does with ours, to get an idea of some of the things that we do. But LEED Silver, any new projects that we do today are built to a LEED Silver standard. Mm-hmm. In fact, Bethesda, which is being planned over the next year, will be built to a actually green LEED Gold standard, and it'll have the first green roof. So when you go there, you'll see you could actually put cows on the roof up there if you could hold it. But and when it comes to energy reductions, again, that's significant not only for us but our entire department. So wherever there's a requirement for energy reduction, we're really leading that, because we do a lot of renovation. So wherever we renovate, we adhere to the latest energy savings as possible.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Jello, yes.
Defense Commons Agency is also committed to sustainability, and in fact, every major decision we make relating to facility, we are always thinking about how can we conserve our energy and environmental. And in fact, we have created environment management system where all our major decisions are processed through it. And some of the things we are doing is the same thing as what AVs and NextCom are working on. As you know, when you walk in a grocery store, we have all these refrigeration units. They are heavy users of energy. So now we're going into all the refrigeration units with the doors so that they will not lose energy efficiency. We're also into recycling all the cardboard boxes. As a grocery store, we generate quite a bit of those, tons. And so just about everything we do, we think about sustainability.
Thank you. And just one last comment, Mr. Larson.
Thank you. Just one point that just a little different tack. I think we all do very similar things in most of those areas, but one additional point is I think we need to take a balanced approach, and there is a connection here to exactly the question that Congresswoman Davis asked a few minutes ago, and that's about the threat to the, and I think one of the things we need to look at is the balance of appropriated and non-appropriated funds. Those areas that are appropriated fund requirements need to be funded, because when we don't, then we take and we use NAF money to pay for those expenses. We then either have to do two things: diminish the dividend, or we have to increase the prices. And when you do that, that becomes a threat to the sustainment of all of our facilities. So just a little different slant on the...
Thank you, Mr. Larson, and I'm going to look forward to visiting some of these facilities very soon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you all, and we will recess and return after the vote.
Liberty or to Camp Victory to the PX there on base and be able to get a tube of toothpaste for $2 and change. If the cost had to have been borne by AAFES in order to put that toothpaste in there, and that cost would have been passed on to me, there's no telling how much that toothpaste would have cost. Or if my wife had to put it in a box and mail it to me, we would have had the $10 cost of shipping, and it would have taken 2 weeks to get to where I was. You think about that in terms of the amount of money that we spend on SDT, the hundreds of millions, $200 million that we spend. If that cost had to be borne by military families, that means military families would be paying hundreds of millions of dollars more for the products that they purchase. And so to me, SDT is very important to help support the financial readiness of our families, particularly those overseas.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to add, Jennifer?
Yes, Congresswoman. Three things. We are good stewards of the money, too. I mean, we do understand the need. We do need that to have equity in our costs. We are good stewards, though. We've been using floor stacking. We have used cube container stacking processes to save money and reduce containers that go over in order to keep those monies as low as possible. Along with that, we have container stuffing costs that we've actually have a cost avoidance of $9.2 million just because of the way we've handled our containers and being able to stack and rack and stack those for shipment. So we're saving $9.2 million there instead of just doing it on the cuff. Likewise, for commercial air usage, we've actually had a cost avoidance there of $27 million. So I think we're doing our best at our level to take those funds that are given to us and use them very wisely, so we can have them go further for us. So.
Thank you. And Admiral, I know that I was going to come back to you on the other question earlier about the consolidation, the challenges in with the exchanges. And if you want to just comment on that briefly, and Mr. Larson as well, quickly on this and the other one. On
this topic, I just wanted to mention that, I mean, we really do believe in equity of service across overseas. In many areas that we operate, and it's critical, and sometimes it's not that perspective taken. In Gitmo or Djibouti, there really are no other alternatives. There's no outside the gate shopping at all. So we are the only source for that family or that sailor or military member. So I think that has to take, and the only way we can be competitive is to have that offset. So thank you.
Mr. Larson?
Yes, ma'am. A point on that, it's the same point, and that is, there's a direct relationship with reduction in appropriated cost and the impact on the dividend. So, and that is also an issue that's closely linked to consolidation. That is the way that we all do business and our business models, our service cultures, and how we approach providing the services and the programs for Marines and families and the other service members and families. That it is it has a direct impact and connection to our ability to provide those programs that have a direct impact on retention and readiness. And so consolidation, I think, over time would have a huge impact as you go from service to service on the types of family programs and the services that are provided. So, you know, we see that as a potential risk or challenge that we face, and that is if we decide that we're going to, again, explore consolidation and we go down that road, there will be an impact for a number of years significantly on the dividend and on how we provide those programs to the service members and their families.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, and thank you for asking the questions about overseas availability. And I share the same personal view of Mr. Gordy, and I've had 2 sons serve in Iraq, another served in Egypt, and I have a 4th that will be deployed one day. And so I know how reassuring it is to our service members to be able to buy product without there being an excessive charge. And so I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's on behalf of military service members, military families, veterans, widows, in particular, as I think of the services you provide, we know firsthand. And so thank you very much for all of you being here today, and we are adjourned.